Today's guest on episode 9 of Keepin It A Hundo is Jesus Zeus Hernandez. I met Zeus playing ball. We've known each other for about 10 years. But this isn't a story about basketball. Zeus was actually a football player. But this isn't a football story or a basketball story. This is a story of the American dream, about what can happen if someone gives you an opportunity. I hope you listen, D. Trump. I went down to Coral Gables to do this podcast with him in the rough gated community of Cocoa Plum. He's always positive. I learn something from him every time we talk. So you might want to grab a pen, take some notes. You might learn something today. I learned you shouldn't always be the smartest person in the room, and it's okay to admit if you still have a crush on Britney Spears. Make sure you continue to download and subscribe and leave some comments. Let me know what your favorite episode's been so far. It's interesting to see which episode really resonates. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Keepin It A Hundo. It's a good one. This is episode 9 with Zeus Hernandez. He's the epitome of the American dream. Zeus Hernandez and his mother Idalia immigrated to the U.S. in 1980. They boarded a boat in Cuba at the Mariel boatlift. It's a part of American history now. It changed the city of Miami forever. It also gave a young boy an opportunity. And as you'll learn today, Zeus is a person who seizes opportunities. He maximizes opportunities. Florida State gave him an opportunity when he walked on the football team, and he became All ACC first team and won a national championship there. When injuries cut short his career, he was given another opportunity, and he got involved in the medical field, and he turned himself into a multimillionaire. He went from Allapattah to Cocoa Plum, and if you don't know what that means, you can figure it out. The first time I ever flew on a private jet was with Zeus. And most importantly, he's got an opportunity to do something that his father didn't do, and that's raise his kids. Zeus is married, he has 2 boys, and his dream was to be the father that he never had, and he's doing that. This podcast is dedicated to Donald Trump. I know D. Trump listens to Keepin It A Hundo while he's doing his hair or laying in the tanning bed. So President Trump, I give you an immigrant story. This is episode 9 of Keepin It A Hundo with Zeus Hernandez. Welcome to Keepin It A Hundo.
Keepin It A Hundo.
This is Jesus Hernandez, better known as Zeus. I've known Zeus for about 10 years now. Been playing ball with him. How does an offensive tackle that grew up in, where, Allapattah?
Allapattah, yeah.
Allapattah, played at Florida State. How do you end up in the nursing business?
Well, I happened to meet a friend maybe 2000 working out, and he basically asked me for a spot, and we kind of hit it off. And he was in the health business, and he had a mobile doctor's office, and he gave me the idea to start a medical equipment company, which is called a DME. At the time, I didn't even know what a DME stood for. So I kind of Googled it. I had a couple bucks left from a car accident that I got into a couple years before that. And with that, I got started in 2002.
And that's your startup money?
And that was a startup money,
that's
that I got.
Let's go back to the beginning of everything. You had a pretty circuitous route from Cuba to Miami to Tallahassee, now into the home nursing business. You were born in Cuba?
I was born in Cuba. I was born in Cuba in 1971. My mom and I decided to leave Cuba in 1980.
In Marielitos.
In the Mariel boatlift.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jimmy Carter, for opening the doors for us. We got here with nothing. Basically, a set of clothes on our back. They gave us a new set when we landed in Key West. Then after that, my mom basically went to work. At that time, I was 8.
And you remember the boat lift?
I remember the boat ride.
Was it crazy? Was it?
It was pretty crazy.
The conditions on the boat?
Yeah, we're talking about, probably a 40, 50 footer, or maybe like 80 or 90 people in it. I remember the waves. I recall, a boat leaving before us. We were supposed to be in, and my mom actually gave them the go-ahead to a family to go before us because they had a kid who had special needs, and she thought that he should get here before us.
She gave up your spot.
She gave up our spot.
And it was just the two of you.
It was just the two of us, and that boat never made it.
Wow.
So I wasn't even, the entire boat went down, because when you cross, it's only 90 miles, but you got to cross the Gulf of Mexico. And there's times of the year when it gets really rough. We left the Mariel boatlift at midnight. So basically we didn't get to Key West till about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. So that boat just basically never made it. It was capsized, and no one was ever found. So that was supposed to be us. So yeah, so it started like that. My mom got here, she went to work, never asked the government for help. I started here in the 4th grade, had to learn English.
Where were you guys living?
In Miami Beach. Got bullied a lot for not knowing the language, got made fun of.
Did you have any family here yet? Anybody here?
You guys didn't know anybody? We didn't know anyone. It was just her and I. So she worked at the airport. She was working double shifts. I would stay home alone at 8 years old. But, then things started taking place. We moved to Allapattah, what's now known as Wynwood. If you know Wynwood now, you're like, oh, wow, look at this place. But it wasn't like that when I was growing up there. When I was growing up there.
It used to be called Dominican Town.
Yeah, Puerto Rican. That's where Roberto Clemente Park is at.
Yeah.
So it was full of gang members. That's where I grew up, full of drug dealers. It was rough, but, kind of made me who I am today.
So what type of stuff were you into as a kid? Were you into sports?
Yeah, we were always outside. I lived outside. You had to come get me. Everybody was always outside. As soon as you woke up, you went outside.
That's how it was when I grew up.
Yeah, you played football, tag. Funny story I tell my little brother, and I used to tell my friends in college. What we did at Florida State was one of the things that we did was jump rope. For a minute, let's see how long you could jump. Well, we used to do that for fun in my neighborhood, not realizing that I was becoming a good athlete because I played jump rope. Things like that, playing tag, chasing, racing, playing quarterback, playing receiver. Even though I was overweight, I would play receiver.
Helps with your agility.
All those things that I did, when I was a kid, because I was always outside, made me a better athlete.
Yeah. It's funny, back then you could be out all day playing with your friends and nobody worried about hydrating or sunscreen.
I'm not sure that word was around back then.
Nobody cared. You go all 12 hours without drinking water. You were fine.
Water.
It's nuts. So you had to go to a detention center in Kansas first?
Oh, I did. Actually, we skipped that part. So when we got off the boat, they took us to Kansas. And now, one of the things that Fidel Castro did, he let out a lot of Cubans, but what he did also was he emptied out his jails and he emptied out all the psych wards.
Right.
So now here we are, family, mom, kids, dads, in the same complex with convicted criminals, crazies.
Right.
I mean, absolutely.
And sick people that are like
very sick, very
sick.
And we were there for 30 days, so I saw a lot. I mean, as an 8-year-old, I saw people get stabbed with plastic forks or plastic knives.
It's basically like being in prison.
It was exactly like being in prison.
Yeah.
You know what? Now that you say that, it was exactly like being in prison. We lived in a barrack, and in that barrack was everybody.
And you're on lockdown.
And yeah, we're on lockdown. There's fences around. So I never thought about it as far as that being in jail. That's exactly what it was. We were in jail with a bunch of criminals.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's exactly what it was like.
You mentioned how it was a lot of prisoners and mentally ill people, things like that. There was a lot of blue-collar workers, so they kind of helped fill positions in the job market in Miami. That was kind of a big thing, is that the Cubans that came over filled some lower-level jobs, and that kind of created dissension with lower income or lower middle-class people in Miami. Kind of started a lot of the issues, or continued a lot of the issues between blacks and Cubans in Miami.
Right.
I know that was one of the issues, because back in '59, when the first wave came over, when Cuba was going through their revolution, when Castro took over, there's a lot of doctors and lawyers and educated people. This time around, it was a little different.
Well, the thing about Cubans, we're known, and I'm not just saying this because I'm Cuban, but we're known as hard workers. We know there's a lot of entrepreneurship, with the Cubans, but we're hard workers. So when everyone first got here, obviously they took whatever job they could, but then they realized, okay, here you can do whatever you want. So all of a sudden, all these Cubans started popping up little businesses. Like my mom owned the cafeteria for 17 years.
In Little Havana?
It was in Allapattah. Right on 36th Street. It was 3 blocks away from my high school that I went to, Jackson High. And, she had 15, 16 stools for, 16, 17 years. And that's how she fed me. That's how she fed our family. And, the same people came there for breakfast and lunch every single day. And, they didn't come for the food or for the cafeteria. It came for my mom.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to see my mom. Because my mom was like, if you ever seen the show Cheers, where they insult you as soon as you walk in the door, well, that was kind of my mom. Yeah. So when they would walk in, they were looking for my mom to do something like that. But what was interesting about my mom, which I think I learned a lot from understanding not to treat everybody the same, she had her customers that were looking for her politeness, but then she had her customers that were looking for her rudeness. So I kind of studied that, and I watched her, how she treated everybody different.
Different people are motivated in different ways.
Correct. And that, that taught me a lot of, I think, life skills. I think if you learn how to serve, so watching my mom serve, working behind the cafeteria along with her for years, like when she would go out of town, when I after school, if you can serve, you can make it in this world, because you're basically understanding what the person wants before they even ask for it. So give you an example, I will see people come in, and she knew the one guy only ate with a spoon. So as soon as she sat down, the guy had a spoon and he liked his water without a straw. Or the guy who came in, that my mom would give him a beer, but we didn't have a beer license, and then all of a sudden she would put it in a plastic cup because, the guy knew that he couldn't have a beer, but if he wanted a beer, he had to drink from a plastic cup. So I watched all these things growing up, and I just kind of understood that life was about understanding what the other person wants, understanding how to make them happy, whether it was talking to them a certain way, whether it was feeding them a certain way. So a lot of my life skills, I think, from being in that cafeteria day in and day out, I've learned.
So your mother believed in the American dream.
She definitely believed in the American dream.
And a lot of Cubans did.
Yeah, she wanted better for me. To get your 8-year-old kid, put him on a boat, and come to a country that you have no idea. Not only are you desperate for a better life for yourself, but you want your kid to have a better life, and that's why she left. And that's why I take care of her today. I wouldn't be here.
You're a testament to the great job that she did raising you. That wouldn't have been possible in Cuba. What you've got out of this life.
None of that would have been possible in Cuba. There's no opportunity over there.
Yeah.
I got a funny story. My brother, hardcore Democrat, he went to Cuba 2 months ago. He came back a Republican.
Wow.
He said, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done believing in government. I'm done thinking that government should control things. I mean, he literally came back a Republican. As much as he hates Mr. Trump and whatever, he says, I'm done. He says, I am a Republican now. I believe in, being able to own your own business, calling your own shots, working as hard as you want and make as much money as you want, because what I saw over there, it's not fun.
That's some extreme democracy over there.
Correct.
Have you been back to Cuba?
I have not been back. I'm planning on going back this year. I was advised not to go for so long. Just, go for like a day or two. I know you've been.
Yep.
I think you've been in every part of the world. So I follow you on Instagram, which I think is so cool. I'm not a big traveler.
You have a family.
I have a family.
More grounded.
Yeah, and I'm just, I guess maybe I'm lazy, or maybe I'm just in love with my life. Sometimes people take vacations to get away from their life, but my life is a vacation. I love my life. Right?
Yeah.
Some people are thinking about, how do I get out of here? No, I like being in my house. I like my life the way it is. I like going to my gym. I like playing my basketball. I like working out. I like all these things that doesn't really make me feel like I need to get away from them.
It's funny you call it a vacation. I never call my trips vacations, because I'm not getting away from anything either. I agree with you on that. To me, it's more, it's something I'm like proactively doing. I'm exploring, I'm learning.
Things,
it's a little different, I think, for me.
It is, and some people look at it that way.
Yeah.
I just have.
But I hate getting away too and missing basketball on the weekends and missing workouts. And we've talked about how you eat different. You're like, how do you stay in shape when you travel?
Yeah, I don't know how you do that, because when I'm on vacation, it's about eating.
Yeah.
It's all about eating for me.
Oh, that's number one for me, definitely. Let's talk about Jackson High.
Wow.
You went to Jackson in Allapattah.
Jackson High.
All black high school, pretty much.
Pretty much. It was tough. It was tough. You had to be tough to go to Jackson High. It helped that I played football. It helped that at the time I was there, I was over 300 pounds. I got up to as high as 317.
When did you start playing football?
I started playing football actually in 10th grade. Okay. There was a guy named James Puppy Wright, who went to West Virginia, And believe it or not, this guy cheated off me. He was the only dummy that ever cheated off me. I can't believe this guy. But it was Spanish class, so he felt safe cheating off me.
That's safe.
He's like, yo, you got to come out. You got to come out, play football. And I've been playing sandlot football for my entire life.
So you knew the game and you liked the game.
I knew the game. I liked the game. I already had the intensity of go kill to be killed. So when I went out there, it was sort of a natural thing to hit, and the coaches was like, wow. Now I had a hard time, remembering the plays and going through the basic fundamental things. But once I got that, I think once I was able to control my temper, my anger, and play offensive alignment, which is not defensive alignment, you have to be under control. So once I was able to control all these things, I was able to put it all together, and that's when I started evolving as a football player. Because you have to be in control when you play offensive alignment.
And when did you realize you could maybe play at the next level? Go to school to do it, go to college?
When I was a senior, it's like you think about it, but you really don't know. Like it's like a big dream because no one in your neighborhood has done it. No one in your family has done it. So you hear about it, but it's almost like a fantasy. And then my senior year, we went 1-9. I didn't even take my SATs. No one even advised me to take my SATs or ACTs. Then James Puppy Wright, his name comes up again. He had gone to Valley Forge Military Academy the year before that, his senior year, because he was too old to play. So now he comes back. He's my boy. He's like, Zeus, the coaches got film and they want you to go to Valley Forge. And I'm like, what? And of course, he didn't tell me all the things that were going on at Valley Forge. He's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's nothing. The whole military thing is a piece of cake. Well, it wasn't a piece of cake. But so I took a chance and I ended up going to Valley Forge Military Academy to do a post-grad year. It was tough. But I would not be sitting here today if it wasn't for Valley Forge. Valley Forge basically broke me down. I mean, they broke me down and built me back up. So when I got to Valley Forge, I was 317. They had to sew 2 uniforms to put on me. And I was just rebellious. I was so rebellious. I was from the hood. I thought I had all the answers. I was gangster. The truth is that I was gangster. I grew up in the hood around gangs. Like, I just thought that, no one could mess with me. I had this attitude about me. I wasn't used to studying. So they basically just broke me down and built me back up.
You didn't have a lot of discipline. You didn't have a father.
Zero.
Nope. Your mother was at work all day.
Yeah, I pretty much did what I wanted. And then when I got there, you have these kids that have been there for years with rank that was telling you what to do. I had a really tough time with that. I met, white people for the first time. I heard the word spick for the first time. And the little Mexican dudes came up to me.
You didn't even know what it meant?
And they were like, hey, I'm like, why are you crying? He's like, well, they call me a spick. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And the guy goes, patron. That means like, using the N-word. I'm like, what? What I did then, I told all the little Mexican guys, since they all used to have parents with money, they would get care packages. I said, look, I'm going to watch your back. I'm going to make sure that nobody calls you a spick again. If they do, you tell me. So they would bring me their care packages, and that's how I was able to get by over there. But, I got exposed to a lot of things, but they broke me down. We had study hall for 2 hours a day. At the beginning, I wasn't studying, but time was going by slow. I was just sitting there looking at the wall for 2 hours every night. And then finally, I started reading and I started studying. And then, we started taking tests in class. And I'm like, well, these tests are a joke. Well, the tests weren't a joke. I was just studying for the first time in my life. So I was like, wait a second. Look at this. You study and this become easy. So it taught me how to study, taught me how to say yes, sir, no, sir. And that was kind of basically what I needed to take my game to the next level, kind of that discipline. And understanding that I can't just go around acting like a gangster all my life, because it's not going to happen. It's not going to work for me. So that gave me an opportunity to, be able to go to Florida State. But that was also another story there. I didn't just get a scholarship. I had to walk on.
Before we get there, before you went to military school, you were getting into some trouble. Were you getting into real trouble? Were you getting, with the police and stuff?
I never got... It's funny enough. I did enough things to get in real trouble.
Yeah.
I just never got caught.
Yeah.
It was almost like one of these things that we would go out and do things and they wouldn't happen when I was there. Then the day I didn't show up, it would happen for the guys. Yeah. So it was almost like it wasn't meant for me. Then when football started getting serious, a lot of the guys didn't want me to get in trouble. So they would kind of keep me out of the trouble. But I definitely went out looking for it plenty of times. I just thank God that, never found me.
Yeah.
So
So you didn't get offered a scholarship out of Valley Forge, not even like a small D1 school?
No, I did not. I don't know what happened there. It's a weird situation. Really can't explain it.
So how do you choose to walk on at Florida State instead of Miami?
So I tried to walk on in Miami. They told me they couldn't get me in. So I was at Moore Park. There was a guy there.
I still work out at Moore Park.
Oh, you still do? There was a guy named there, Duliak, who played defensive line for us, who played for Edison the year before that. So he's at the track, and I start running. So he comes up to me. He's like, "Man, who are you?" So I'm like, "Hey, Zeus, whatever." It's like, I've never seen a big guy move like this. Yeah. So literally, he walks away, calls Coach Amato, who was our defensive coordinator, assistant Chuck Amato, and says, "Hey, there's a guy here in Miami you need to look at." So Coach Amato happened to know our principal, and they talked to each other, and then they tried to figure out a way how to get me to Florida State. Well, they couldn't get me in, but Coach Amato said, "Okay, we can't get him in here, so we're gonna try to get him into a school called Itawamba in Mississippi. It's a junior college." So I take a bus drive all the way to Itawamba, Mississippi. I have no idea where that's at. By the way, I didn't even know what Florida State was at this time. I had no idea who Bobby Bowden was. Yeah. So then I get to Itawamba, and I'm sitting there. The first 2 days we go through practice. I'm hitting everything. I'm doing well. And then all of a sudden around 10 o'clock at night, the coaches walk in and said, "Zeus, pack your stuff." What do you mean pack my stuff? I thought I was getting kicked out of school. Says, "No, you're going to Florida State." And then everybody went crazy, but I didn't know what Florida State was. Yeah. All I knew was Miami. The Canes. Yeah. I had no idea about Florida State. I didn't understand what was happening. And the guy's like, "Man, you're going to the number one school in the country." I'm like, "What?" So there I was on the bus heading to Florida State.
Did they figure out a creative way to take care of your tuition and stuff like
that?
Yeah.
So, the first year, they told me, "Don't worry about it. We'll get you student loans." So the first year I had to get student loans and financial aid. I paid them back, sir. I had to.
All right. That interest is a bitch.
Yeah. So I ended up getting some loans that first year. And, I got there and I remember walking into that lunchroom and seeing all these humongous human beings and saying to myself, "Oh my God,
I have to block this guy."
Yeah, I said I might never play here. Like, this is crazy. But the streets kicked into me, the survival mode kicked into me. I shaved my head before I even got there. It's like I was ready. And the first day we put on pads, they saw this attitude, this tiger of just not scared of anybody, just fighting. And they were like, "Okay, you need to calm down, right? You're going to be okay. We're telling you you're going to be okay. This is what's going to happen. We're going to redshirt you, okay? We need you to stay out of trouble for a whole year and then go to scout team and prove yourself.
And go to class.
Go to class, do all the things." So I did everything I had to do my first year. I got scout team player of the year. I mean, I was going hard, and the scout team didn't like that. The defense didn't like that. The older guys appreciated it. And every time one guy would be like, "Hey, Zeus, stop trying to be a scout team All-American." Mm-hmm. One of the other dudes would be like, "Hey, this man's trying to earn a scholarship.
That's
all right? He's doing his thing,
Yeah.
So I had some guys that would complain, but the other guys like, "Bring it on." I would have the senior guys call me out like, "Hey, I want to go against Zeus because I know he's going to get me better."
Yep.
So I built that reputation. And Coach Amato, obviously, I was with him my first year because we're in the offensive scout team, so we hang out with the defensive linemen. And he couldn't stop raving enough about the effort I put every day in practice. While everybody else was going half speed, I was going full speed. I was ready to get on hitting drills, blocking. I did whatever it took because I knew that everybody was watching. So right after that first year, Coach Scott, who ended up getting a head coaching job at South Carolina, said to me, "Hey, this summer we're going to go out, or the spring, this summer we're going to go out and we need one offensive lineman. If I can't find somebody better than you in the country, I'm going to give it to you." So right before the summer ended, it's like, "Hey, we're going to give you a scholarship." So that was pretty cool, So I finally got a scholarship my redshirt freshman year.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know you ended up getting a scholarship.
Yep, I did.
Good stuff. Before we get back to more of that Florida State stuff, what was it like growing up in Miami in the 80s? You got crack, you got, the drug capital of the U.S. or the world. You got Miami Vice, Uncle Luke.
I don't think I've ever told this to anybody, but I grew up in a house where my father was a drug dealer. Ever. Never told this to anyone, but it's fine. It was like
a stepfather.
It was a stepfather, and he was in and out of jail. He actually died in jail. Well, my mom and him were together. He probably went to jail a good 6 times, at least. So it was just a way of life for me. So it didn't seem like a big deal. It was just like
it was normal to you.
It's normal to me. Like that's what was going on around me all the time. I sat through 2 or 3 raids where the cops came and raided our house and like put me in a corner. Like, so it was like very normal. So growing up like that, looking back now, it's like, wow, I can't believe, I saw all these things. I grew up in a house full of guns. I knew where the Uzi was. I would take a gun to school because I thought I was cool. Like, I never got caught, but I did all those things. So,
but did your dad know you were taking?
No, nobody knew. Okay. I was sneaking out of the house. I knew there was 5 guns in different 5 hiding spots. They didn't think I knew where they were, but I knew where they were. So I would, bring my friends over. We would play with the guns, and so thinking about all these things, it's like, wow, I can't believe I did all those silly things. Like taking a gun to school for no reason, just to be cool and showing it to my friends.
Right,
like, I got a gun.
Look in my bag.
Yeah, look in my bag. I got a gun. Yeah. Like I did all that silly stuff. So growing up, you just don't realize how dumb these things were. And now that I have my own kids, I don't leave a gun sitting around for they can like go play with it.
I'm sure you appreciate the value of a father at this point. You're a great dad, and you cherish your opportunity now.
I'm the only child from my mom, but I have siblings from my father with other women, and we're all really tight. And what I tell them and what we tell each other is that we need to be thankful to our dad, because what he taught us was what not to be like your dad.
Exactly.
So I tell my brother and my sister and them, like, look, let's not complain about him. Let's be thankful that he wasn't there for us. Let's be thankful that he had no idea how to be a dad. Because now that we have our own kids, we know what not to do. We know we want to be completely opposite from him. We never want anyone to ever say you're like your dad.
Yeah.
So it's like my main goal in life is to be a good dad, to spend as much time as I can with them, to teach him as much as I can. Some people might say it might be too much. I don't care. I think
you're doing a good job of it so far.
I appreciate it, man.
When did everybody start calling you Zeus?
When I got to Florida State, some of those country boys, they couldn't say, hey, Zeus. So then the Zeus kind of just stuck around. So I'm like, yeah, just leave Zeus. And then all of a sudden, everyone started calling me Zeus. So that's how Zeus became the name. I always tell people I didn't name myself Zeus. Because everyone's like, oh, you named yourself Zeus?
You can never give yourself your own nickname.
But I did name my first son Zeus. He's the real deal. Zeus. He's the real deal.
He's not Jesus?
No, he's not Jesus.
I always thought
Zeus.
He was Jesus.
No, he's Zeus Hernandez. He's the real deal.
Okay.
So he's got a lot to live for. I try to name all my kids like God's name, but my wife wouldn't let me.
So he took your first name?
Yeah, as a middle name. Yeah.
I like that. When you were old enough to stop partying in Miami, where were you hanging out? Were you on South Beach?
Oh, when I was old enough.
At the Grove? What was going on back then? I wasn't in Miami yet.
It was a little bit of both. When I got back from college, I started going out South Beach. Then the Grove was kind of cool back then, but it was more South Beach. That's when the club scene was really happening. It was the late 90s, so the .coms were booming. There was a lot of money coming from New York. People were partying. That's when the clubs became really famous.
So that was when I first got down here. So that you're looking at like Level and Crowbar.
Yeah, Crowbar, all those places.
Those spots.
Yeah. That's when the house music started coming around.
Yeah.
Everybody was into hip hop, and I remember my roommate was like, he worked at a place called Chaos. He's like, oh, you got to come check out this Chaos place. And I'm like, why? It's like, oh, there's nothing but models here. But then I walked in and I heard the music, and I'm like, dude, I can't do this. He goes, hey, you're going to have to put up with it. And sure enough, I fell in love with the music because all the pretty women were listening to
the house music. So you end up having a lot of success at FSU. First team All ACC your senior year. You guys won a national championship. What, sophomore year, junior year?
Yeah, sophomore year.
Sophomore year. You're blocking for Charlie Ward.
Ward Dunn. A lot of good players came through there.
I was playing high school football at the time, and I'm watching Florida State on TV, and I wasn't a Florida State fan, but I'm a football fan, and I loved watching that team. I made my high school girlfriend memorize everybody. Oh, well, not the linemen.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But like all the skill position guys. She knew all 4 wide receivers.
Really?
She knew the running backs. She knew the D-backs. Like I loved watching you guys.
I still remember I think it was a redshirt freshman. Charlie Ward was a junior, and it was in the middle of the game. And at that time, I wasn't getting a whole lot of playing time. They would put me in here and there. And the first time I went in, and Charlie Ward was in the huddle, and I subbed in the middle of the game. And as soon as I got to the huddle, his eyes just opened really big because I'm playing left tackle. I got his backside, and he's like, "You gonna be all right?" And I got my eyes like huge open. I said, I got this. And I
remember who you guys are playing?
Yeah, we were playing Virginia. I think we were playing.
Okay.
And that was kind of my first shot, not getting in while the game was a blowout.
Yeah.
Of real being in the middle of the game with, Amp Lee and all these other amazing players. Edgar Bennett, who played for Green Bay for a long time. All these guys were in the huddle. And there I was as a redshirt freshman, ex walk-on, playing for the number one team in the country at the time.
I mean, I think practice probably got you ready for these games. You're blocking Derek Brooks, Andre Wadsworth.
Yeah,
we
had
Sam
Bulwer.
Howard,
Yeah,
Peter Bulwer.
Peter Bulwer. I mean, practicing against those guys. Oh, I mean, that's how you tell that to everybody. I mean, we went against the best players. Marvin Jones.
Yeah.
We're talking about some
another
of the
Miami
best.
guy.
Yeah, another Miami guy who actually took me under his wing when I got there. Going against these guys every day in practice just makes the game a lot more, a lot easier for me. It was just like you're playing against the speed, and that once you do that every day, then you get into the games. It's like the other guys are moving so much slower than the guys you go against every day. Mm-hmm. So the game just kind of slows down for you while you're at the game. So yeah, practicing every day against these players will just make you better.
I remember you told me a story one time about when you brought Charlie Ward back to Liberty City or to Allapattah.
Oh yeah, we were playing at the Orange Bowl, and I'm like, Charlie Ward, you want to come with me to eat lunch at my mom's cafeteria? So there we were in the middle of the hood in Allapattah on 13th Avenue and 36th Street having lunch, right? So the news people were there, and my mom had this small cafeteria, but it had pictures of me and Charlie Ward and all the football players on the wall. So that was pretty cool. But then after that, it's like, come on, I'm gonna take you by my old hood. So now we drive by Roberto Clemente Park, and the boys, and I'm in a pickup truck, and the boys see Charlie Ward, and they're like, "That's Charlie Ward. That's Charlie Ward." And Charlie Ward's like ducking down, like he's a good old boy. I mean, he's all these gangsters. He's a country boy. He's like, "Zeus, you grew up here?" I'm like, "Yeah, those are my boys. We're gonna be okay. Don't worry about it." He's like, "Oh my God." So. Yeah, that was interesting, and we're still tight up to this day. I always appreciated that because as a freshman or a sophomore, I forget what I was, a sophomore, for him to take the time to get in that car with me to go see my mom, because my mom was actually like a big deal in Miami, because there she was, we had a story about her bringing me to this country, and then now I'm playing at Florida State, and so the newspaper and all these news channels, they were always at the cafeteria interviewing her. So it was very cool for him to take the time to go do that for me. He was talking about, he was going to be the Heisman Trophy.
Oh, he was huge. NBA, NFL, everything. I also remember you mentioning Randy Moss was there when he first came out.
That was interesting.
He came to FSU first.
Yeah, that dude cost me about 2 national championships. Had he stayed at Florida State, he was unbelievable. When we found out we were getting him, obviously none of us knew who it was. Mm-hmm. It didn't take long for us to realize who he was when practice started. And one of the things that Coach Bowden said was, "Hey, Lou Holtz, I will bring him to Florida State, but he's got a red shirt, and he's got to prove to me for a whole year that he can stay out of trouble."
Yeah.
So he agreed on that. So here comes Randy Moss. Now he's on the scout team, okay, playing punt return with, no offense, but a bunch of little white walk-ons, on punt return. And he would just sit there and practice would just stop. And he would literally point to the other side, like, "I'm taking this to the house." And sure enough, he would go one way, cut it back, and then next thing you know, there he goes, taking it to the house on the number one defense in the country. And then he was playing offense of scouting along with me against, number one DBs, Terrell Buckley, all these great DBs, and he was just burning them. I mean, he was just burning them. So, here we are going into his redshirt freshman year, and we're thinking, okay, this is it. With this guy on the team, we're going to be unbeatable. And, he got caught doing something, broke probation, and ended up at Marshall. But it was fun to watch him, play basketball with him. I remember him dunking on one of my boys and the whole gym clearing out. He was an amazing, amazing athlete. I mean, a special, special dude. as you saw later on in life.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that he was at Florida State. That's why that story is always interesting to me. Weren't you around Dan Kendra too?
Oh, Dan Kendra.
Dan Kendra come in?
How do you know about Dan Kendra?
Man, I was a junkie. I grew up
Dude,
watching this
Dan
stuff.
Kendra was a special
That's
cat.
why I'm going to ask about these
Hey,
people.
I follow him now on Instagram, and he's doing handstands on
I
medicine
gotta follow
balls. Oh, you don't follow? Oh, he's doing handstands on medicine balls. Like, what in the world? He was just out there. This kid was just out there. He was different.
So he came, for the listeners who don't know who he is, Dan Kendra came in as like the highest ranked quarterback, like Joe
Ever.
Montana, like same town as Montana or one of those guys in Pennsylvania, or Dan Marino or somebody. And he's supposed to be the savior at quarterback for Charlie Ward. Well, he turns out turning into like a bodybuilder and puts on like 80 pounds of muscle.
Yeah, he gets to Florida State. I basically learned how to eat from him. Like, I didn't know that great chicken breast, so he came in already eating
High
chicken
protein
breast and potatoes without the sour cream and all this. So he kind of taught me how to diet. But he came to Florida State, started working out like an animal, gained like 60 pounds of muscle. So now he's like a robot trying to play quarterback.
Yeah.
So that didn't go too well for him, but they
moved him to fullback.
They moved him to fullback, and he was just a monster. He was just a monster. His mentality was different. He wasn't a very outgoing person. He didn't have a lot of friends. He was kind of into himself, working out. He always walked around with a huge bottle, a gallon of water. Yeah, he was a funny dude, interesting guy, but the nicest guy ever.
Yeah.
You would sit down with him, and he would talk to you. And, it's crazy because if you pay attention enough to people, you always learn something from them. So like I said, sitting him next to the lunch and watching the way he ate, and I saw the way he looked, I think that's one of the things that God gave me. I'm a student of the game. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're doing something and I like what you're doing, I'm going to watch. And I'm going to ask. So I asked. So why do you eat this? Why do you eat that? I saw how good he looked. I'm like, well, I want to look like that.
Yeah.
So I just started asking, and I learned how to eat from him.
I think he was eating other stuff too, but I'll leave that out of it. I definitely got to follow him on Instagram. What's he up to now? Is he like a trainer or something?
I think he's like a trainer. He's into cars, muscle cars. He's got one car that he always puts pictures of. He's interesting. You got to look him up.
And I forgot to ask you, isn't Charlie Ward coaching like high school or
Charlie Ward? Yeah, we're in a chat room. I'm in a chat room with like 180 ex-players from FSU. And they were just congratulating him last week how he got his coaching job at a high school in Tallahassee. I think it's Tallahassee High.
Okay.
But he also got a spot for the university too. Like he's doing something also for the university. So he's going to be involved with the university. Involved. Yeah. Now they got a new head coach, and I'm actually going back in the middle of April for the spring game, and they're going to have like a halftime old timers football game, so I'm gonna get in there and try to play receiver or something.
Like flag or something?
Yeah, it's like flag. You try to play something you never played before. So
well, you've dropped about 70 pounds.
Yeah,
since
I'm
you
about
there?
70 pounds lighter right now. I'm gonna drop 10 more before the spring game.
This guy's leaning mean now. He doesn't look like an offensive tackle.
Oh, I'm gonna be out there with my flags hanging out and some wristbands.
Tight end, I can see you at tight end.
Yeah.
So your last game of your career at Florida State is at the Orange Bowl against Notre Dame. Correct?
Yep.
That's quite a finish to your career.
It was interesting that the whole Orange Bowl thing, we actually ended up playing in the Orange Bowl 3 times. So, being from Miami and getting to play in 3 Orange Bowls, and we won all 3 of them.
You played in the actual Orange Bowl too,
yeah.
The old stadium.
Yeah, the old stadium. Yeah, all those Orange Bowls, they were all there.
Yeah.
The stadium still went up. And that was our last game against Notre Dame, and, we actually beat them. Interesting, we never lost a bowl game while I was at Florida State. So we won 4 ACCs in a row because we started in '92. My freshman year, we played in the Cotton Bowl, and we won that game, but we weren't in the ACC yet. Then we won the rest of the years that I was there. But it was always cool, to come back and play at the Orange Bowl in front of your family, friends, where you grew up. Missing curfew, staying out late. That was always fun.
You didn't get caught though.
Yeah, I got caught. I had my little brother sleep in for me in the bed, and they actually caught on to that.
Wow.
They threatened me, not that I wasn't going to start, my last game at the Orange Bowl, but came the day of the game, they actually put me in. Interesting story. That game, me and Trey Thomas. Trey Thomas was my backup. So here's the story. Trey Thomas and Walter Jones were both my backups.
And they both went first round and had
One
long
just-
NFL careers.
Well,
right?
one just got inducted to the Hall of Fame.
Walter Jones.
These two guys couldn't beat me out my senior year.
Yeah.
So Walter Jones get redshirted because he couldn't beat me out. The next year he was like the number 5th pick. Now he was now he's in Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And Trey Thomas played for like 10 years, one of the best left tackles ever played for Philly.
Yeah.
So I remember this like if it was yesterday. It was the last drive of the Notre Dame game. If we score, we win. If we didn't, we lose. And it was Trey Thomas' turn to go in because we were like switch every 2 series. And he's like, Zeus, this is your last game here. Take it. Yeah. I'm never going to forget that. Like, he understood, he was only a sophomore at the time, that was going to be my last game. And he wanted me to take that. So, I've reached out to him and I say, man, I just wanted to thank you for, giving me that opportunity to get that last drive for us to score my last, probably real game ever played.
That's real cool. So like you said, maybe your last game you ever played, you ended up getting a little shot with what, the Vikings?
No, it was Kansas City.
Kansas City.
I got a shot. It was kind of interesting how I even got there because I was projected to be second to third round. I was getting calls from all the teams. Where are you going to be at? I was working out like an animal.
Did they do pro days back then?
Yeah, of course they did that. So I actually got invited to the combine, which they don't invite everybody to the combine. I mean, I kicked butt. I went over there.
I didn't even know you went to the combine.
Yeah, I went to the combine. So right after the combine, they saw my speed and all these things, and I had made ACC, and I had a good reputation of working hard and just being kind of a team guy. And then as I was working out, so after the combine, I started really working out even harder because we had a pro day at Florida State. So 2 or 3 weeks before the pro day, I went out one day. And I was on my way to Subway, and I see these 2 girls on the side of the road broken down. So I said, you know what? Let me pull over and help them. I already had bought a Mercedes with the money I didn't have because I thought I was going to get drafted, right? So now I got this big.
Was that an advance from an agent?
Yeah, that was an advance from, I don't even know who. I can't remember. But I knew I had a Mercedes with no money. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
And then I'm driving down the street, and I pull over to the side of the road, and as soon as I get out of the car, I hear this noise. So and I'm like, oh, man, what is that? So when I look back, I see like a truck coming at me. So I try to make a run for it. This truck hits my Mercedes and then smashes me in the back. So when it hits me, I flew like 20 yards down the street, down the road, and I split my pelvis. I broke my wrist, took all the skin off my face. Now I'm sitting there on the ground, basically can't even move, looking up like going, what just happened? What just happened? So that kind of set me back where when the pro scouts came to Florida State 2 weeks later, I basically couldn't even walk. I mean, I had to learn how to walk. Once you split your pelvis, you pull everything around there in your lower abdomens and your legs. So I had to kind of like almost learn how to walk again. So by the time they got there, they were like, well, what happened to you? So I told them. So the day of the draft came, they said, don't worry, you're going to be fine. We talked to the doctors. But the day of the draft came, first day came by, nobody picked me up. Second day, nobody picked me up. But right after the draft, I got a call from the Cowboys saying, hey, you know what? All our offensive linemen at this time, Emmitt Smith was still there, but all the offensive linemen were old already. And they had taken our center, Clay Shire. They're like, you know what? We want to bring you in too as a free agent. So, we popped bottles of champagne. I was always a Dallas Cowboys fan. I mean, I grew up watching Randy White, Too Tall Jones, all these, Jeff Coat. So we started celebrating. Then 20 minutes later, I get a call from the Cowboys saying, hey, you know what? We can't bring you in because of your wrist. You're a liability. If you're hurt and you come to practice, we really can't let you go if you're hurt. So I was like, oh my God, now what? So then nobody would touch me with a 10-foot pole because I got hit by that car. So
trouble passing a physical maybe too, stuff like that.
So I had to sit out the entire year. So basically I already had graduated, but I stayed at Florida State, lived, friend's house. Trained there year round, went out every day, just kind of lived the college life without going to college for another year.
Yeah.
And then the pro scouts came back the next year. So obviously Florida State gave me the opportunity to work out with the seniors. So when I went back out there, again, I was ready and I was moving like a cat. So the Kansas City Chiefs called and said, hey, we want to give you a shot. So I ended up going to camp with the Kansas City Chiefs. That was 1997. So that's how I ended up, getting a shot at an NFL team.
All right, we've reached the Keepin It A Hundo section. Gonna ask you some questions. Keep it a hundo.
Keep it a hundo.
Yeah.
So what does that mean exactly? Keep it a hundo.
Keep it 100.
Keep it 100.
Yeah, keep it real.
Okay.
Keep it honest.
Got it.
And I'ma keep it 100.
Who would win in a game of one-on-one? Jesus Christ versus Jesus Shuttlesworth, since your name is Jesus in English.
Considering that, my boy lives in my neighborhood, I'm going to take Ray Allen.
Yeah, Ray.
Ray's the man.
We've played ball with Jesus Shuttlesworth, actually.
Yeah, he's good. He's a good man.
So you got Jesus Shuttlesworth over Christ. Okay. Basketball or football?
Basketball. Man, I wish I would have been a basketball player. I mean, I love football, but basketball is my passion. I mean, I was just too fat.
Let's talk. I meant to talk about the fantasy camps.
Oh, fantasy camps.
That's kind of interesting. You've done fantasy camps all over the place.
Yeah, it's interesting. Fantasy camps is weird because you're actually paying the player. Instead of somebody paying you, you're paying them.
Yeah.
But it was good because you just meet so many interesting people. Obviously, the people that go to these things can afford to pay $5,000, $10,000. So I've met a lot of lifelong friends now through these camps. So I enjoy
good business contacts.
Yeah, good business contact and just friends. Sometimes you have friends, but then you have these friends where they don't need anything from you. You can call them to ask them for advice. And I've always said to myself, if you're the smartest guy in the room, Zeus, you're in the wrong room.
You're hanging out with the wrong people.
Yeah, you're hanging out with the wrong people. You can't be the guy with the most money. You can't be the best looking guy. You can't be the guy that's the smartest in the room because then you're just not getting nothing out of it.
I need some new friends.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you got plenty of friends where, they got money and, good looking and then smart and they can always add something to your life. And I've always tried to surround myself because I find it more interesting when I can pick their brain. When I can ask them questions and I know that they don't need anything from me.
Yeah.
That's always exciting. That doesn't mean I turn my back on my other friends. I'm very interested in hanging out with smarter people that have done it. And like I told you earlier, I'm a student of the game, so I like this. I take notes and ask questions and see what I can get from them to add to my life.
It's good to stay curious.
Yeah.
Like I think even with raising kids, I don't have any kids, but if they're curious in something, I'm gonna push them in that direction. If they don't have that hunger for something, they're not gonna be as successful.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny to tell about kids because I'm always asking other parents, like, what do you do in this situation? What do you do with your kid like this? And I'm always taking notes. And sometimes the way they talk to the kid is different from the way I talk to my kid. So I take a little bit from them. Just like at work, I try to steal a little bit from everybody. Ray Allen and I always sit there after basketball, or Jamal Matchburn, we sit there after basketball and talk shop. It's not always about work. Sometimes about the kids. What does he do to push his kids? Some kids need pushing, some other kids don't.
Mm-hmm.
How do you talk to them? How do you get the best of them? So that's always a challenge, and I don't think that's going to go away. And I'm just getting started here, the whole fatherhood.
Yeah, young kids. All right, back to keeping it a hundo. What former teammate of yours would you hate to be stuck on a private jet with, and why?
Actually, there's no teammate. I loved all my teammates. They all brought something funny. That's the part I miss most about football was the camaraderie. All these guys are funny. I enjoy being on the chat room with them. I don't think I have one teammate that I didn't want to be around. They all brought something that I enjoy from them.
That's a first. Patino or Calipari?
Calipari's my boy.
Yeah.
Man, he's if you don't know Calipari, his marketing brain is at a whole nother level.
You went to his fantasy
I
camp.
went to his fantasy ball camp. We hung out. He was my coach at the USA basketball camp. He gave me his cell number. When he picked our team, as soon as he picked our team, he went in his bag. He had brought us all Kentucky jerseys, right, to give us. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But he knew right there and then we'll become Kentucky fans.
Of course.
Then at the end of the camp, he literally went to his room while we were in Vegas. He could have been out there gambling, partying, talking, doing whatever. He wrote personal notes to all of us on what he thought about us and what we should work on our game.
Wow.
Like, who would do that? Coach Calipari did that.
That's cool.
So what do I do from that? I come back to work and I start implementing those things at my job. Mm-hmm. So that's why these camps are so good. You learn from all these brilliant heads and you can bring it back to your life and implement them into your life. So yeah, Calipari's the man.
You're a smart man. I'm going to take some notes when I leave here.
Appreciate that.
Who's your favorite nurse of all time?
My favorite nurse of all time, I would have to say my VP of sales. She's a nurse and she's been with me for 10 years, and this lady's just brilliant. And I take notes on her, the way she treats people and the way she makes people feel. I always say, take time to realize how you make others feel, because that's what's important.
My favorite nurse is my mom. She's been a nurse for my whole life.
Oh,
so
that was easy.
She's still working. I just wanted to get that in there for her.
There you go, Mom. Hey, Mom.
Jackie B.
Jackie B.
Top 5 MCs of all time.
Top 5 MCs of all time. Wow. Let's see. I don't know about top 5. I got a couple. I mean, Run DMC from back in the days were one of my favorites. Biggie, Tupac, and now I like Jay-Z.
That's 4.
That's 4. Let's see who would my 5th be.
Got anybody local?
Rakim.
Okay.
I would say Two Live Crew, but Rakim was a man.
Yeah,
like I used to like his style.
I like Rakim.
He was cool. He wasn't hardcore, but he was just cool.
Love it. That's a good list.
Yeah.
Scarface or The Godfather?
Oh man, Scarface.
I knew that was because for Italians it's The Godfather.
Yeah, I get the whole Godfather thing. I get it. I like both. So my father makes me watch Godfather 2 every time. My father-in-law, every time I go down to Key West, we have to watch Godfather 2.
Love it. Might be better than 1.
But he's seen it 100 times, so he falls asleep and then he makes me watch it. But it's great lessons. Just great lessons on those movies. And then obviously Scarface is just classic. Obviously I came into Mariel boatlift, so it was my life. If you notice at the beginning of the movie that everybody's sitting at the Orange Bowl right underneath that underpath, well, that was the same thing that I was in Kansas. They had it here, they had one here, and they had one in Kansas where everybody was stabbing each other
on I-95.
On the I-95.
It's the same thing, but it was just in a different
state. Yeah.
Miami Vice, the show or the movie?
Oh, the show.
I love the show.
The show. I mean, growing up watching that, we started wearing the same pants. You wanted to look like those guys. Obviously, I was too heavy.
Were you Tubbs or Crockett?
Oh, Tubbs. I like Tubbs.
Yeah,
I like them both. They used to wear the Cavaricci pants.
I feel like you used to be Tubbs, but you're more Crockett now.
Yeah, now now I try to be slick and dress appropriately to where I go.
You got the 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah,
stubble on the face.
Yeah, I don't have to shave. That's one of the things about being the boss. You don't have to shave.
That's great. I hate shaving. I don't shave.
I don't remember the last time I shaved. Yeah, I trimmed too.
Better women, FSU or the U?
Oh, not even close. FSU is 5-1. You got all the Georgia peaches. No disrespect to anyone, but you had all the Georgia ladies and then the Florida ladies. It was everybody known. I mean, Florida State used to be an all girls school back in the days.
Really?
Oh yeah. So that's why the odds are there.
Wow.
5-1.
It's still 5-1, you think?
Oh yeah, it's still 5-1. It was either Florida State or Arizona State, always the number 1 party school in the country. Then Florida was sneaking there every once in a while.
Yeah. Best sports movie of all time.
I love The Blind Side. There's a obviously. Oh no. Let me take that back. I'm a Rudy guy.
I knew it.
I'm a Rudy guy, and every time I watch Rudy, I cry. Now I make my 13-year-old watch Rudy the other day. The same time the movie Rudy came out, we went to go play Notre Dame, and I was a walk-on, and I just felt like I was Rudy. I mean, I really connected with that movie.
You were like the hood Rudy.
I was like the hood Rudy. I was like the Rudy that no one ever.
Rudy crossed with Scarface.
Yeah, that Rudy, the guy who was never going to get his shot. The guy was just a big dream. It was never going to happen to him. But then all of a sudden, now I'm playing at Notre Dame. We actually watched that movie on the plane on the way there, which is incredible. We lost that game. We lost that game, but the next game, next week we won, and the rest is history. We won a national championship that year.
That's insane. You watched that movie when you were going to play Notre Dame.
When we were going to play Notre Dame, there we are running in the tunnel. It's like things you see on TV. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here.
That was your first time at the stadium?
That was the first and only time at the stadium, and the fans are sitting right behind you, screaming.
I mean, I went back 2 years ago to see Miami play Notre Dame.
Oh yeah,
and that was my first time at the stadium, and I was in awe. I wasn't even playing.
A lot of history. I mean, how many years do they go back? All the players that have gone through there. When we played them, I had to block this cat named Brian Young, who was just a man playing with kids, and he kind of threw me. And then they had another nose guard named Flanagan. I mean, these guys were they were like on something. There was these guys were monsters playing with kids.
I remember seeing Chris Zorich.
Yeah, Zorich. Yeah, they were like, how do you get this big? I mean, they were just throwing us around. Thank God Charlie Ward would just sit there, and then Brian Young was having basically a straight line to him, and Charlie would just move to the left. Pooh, there he goes flying by, like wouldn't even touch him. I mean, he was just.
I remember those games, those Florida State Notre Dame games. Celebrity crush, past or present. It doesn't have to be present.
Celebrity.
You're married.
No, it's okay. Celebrity crush. I like watching Denzel movies. It's not a crush, but I find him so interesting.
Looking for a woman.
You're looking for a woman?
Well, I mean, if that's what you're into.
No. It's women. I can't even think of any. Oh, Britney Spears. How about that? When I was growing up, and
like
she
that.
came out with the little pigtails and the high socks, dressed like a schoolgirl. Oh yeah, that was it.
See, that's keeping it a hundo.
That's keeping it a hundo. Britney Spears.
Who was your favorite athlete as a kid?
My favorite athlete when I was growing up, I would have to say Herschel Walker.
Ooh, I like that.
The Walker man was just unbelievable.
You remember hearing those stories about like him doing push-ups and sit-ups and just being a freak?
How can you not? You know, you grew up and you didn't have any weight, so you would do push-ups because you heard Herschel Walker made it just doing push-ups. And I grew up being a Cowboys fan, so when he got traded from Minnesota to the Cowboys, he was like my hero. Like I watched him, studied him. Then when I got to Florida State, I watched this other guy named Anthony Munoz because he played left tackle and actually
he was
met
like
him.
the best Hispanic.
He was the best tackle.
ever.
No. He was the best tackle.
Well, that too.
Yeah,
He was probably the best tackle
He
ever.
was the best tackle ever back then. Obviously some other guys now, and I actually met him 2 or 3 years ago, and I told him. So I actually had footage on him where he used to block guy with one hand, right? So I started doing that in college, and then when I met him 2 years ago at the Jason Taylor Foundation, I asked him about that. He goes, "You know what that's called?" So I said, "What?" He says, "The one-arm pistola." The one-arm pistola. I would just go, and I imitated him because the guys would reach out for that outside shoulder, and you stab him with that inside hand. I learned that from watching him.
Favorite vacation spot?
Favorite vacation spot has to be the Bahamas.
Yeah,
the
you
Bahamas.
do like hitting the Bahamas.
I
Close
love,
to home.
Yeah, it's close to home. We have a boat. We do a little island hopping. There's an island that's kind of far. It's called Harbor Island. They only have golf carts there, and they have like 5 or 6 5-star restaurants.
And you take a boat there?
There you fly. You can take a boat, but it's a long ride, so you just fly in, and then they have it's got a place called Pink Sands, so the beach is
I've heard of that, yeah.
It's just gorgeous, and then you basically got like 5 hotels right on the water, so you walk out of your room and you land on the sand, and then that's kind of one of our family favorites. And then Key West, since my wife is from Key West, there's 7-generation conchs, so we go down there a lot.
7 generations?
7 generation, yeah. And my wife grew up there. Her dad grew up there. His father grew up there. So, they've been there a lot. And then, now all the kids are moving back there. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll end up in Key West.
Last question. What's your death row meal? What are you eating?
Wow, death row meal. It has to be, I will have a couple, but if I had to choose one, my mom's cooking. My mom's cooking's just off the chain.
That's what I thought.
The rice, something with rice, her
Just
black
some basics,
beans.
just something basic.
Yeah, some fried bananas,
Yeah.
some steak, some
Plantains, plátanos.
plátanos, yeah, that's
Or maduros.
maduros or
You like
tostones.
maduros or tostones?
Both. I can't go wrong.
like
But
maduros.
I like tostones though, because she make them crunchy, and then we put the garlic on the top, or the mariquitas.
I probably like hers better than.
So yeah, my mom's cooking's just been on point. I try not to let her cook too much when she comes here, because then I just overeat.
Yeah.
It's like I can eat and kind of stop myself, except when she cooks. It's like my brain tells me, you're not gonna get this for a while, so just eat until you feel like you're about to pop. And that's what I kind of do. So I'm like, all right, only once every once, blue moon, come over and cook for us, and we'll normally have enough food there for a week after she's done cooking for all of us.
So what we get? Rice and beans.
Plátanos, picadillo, or some kind of steak that she cooks.
Yeah.
And she does the marisco, which is like seafood gumbo.
Yeah.
Off the chain, and we both like spicy, so when she does it, she brings the pain.
I love
So
it.
people come out of here crying and like, oh man, it's too hot. I'm like, all right.
What are you having to drink with it?
Oh, nice glass of wine. I'm a cab guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw outside, but I have plenty of California cabs that I've been storing for years, saving for years, and you know what? That's kind of my treat now. As I got older, who'd ever thought that I like wine? But I don't even really drink anything else these days besides some good wine. So food and wine for me is like how I treat myself these days.
Same here.
Those are signs of you getting old.
Yeah. I agree. Sophisticated man now.
Well, I don't know about that, but I enjoy my food and wine. That's all.
From Allapattah to Cocoa Plum.
From Allapattah to Cocoa Plum. You know what? Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. If you become a student of the game, if you watch people and you respect people and you care about other people's feelings, I think that's really all you need. And then, people always talk about, oh, Zeus, you're smart. I'm like, I'm really not. I just have common sense. Just
there's a difference
understanding.
between, I think you are very, very intelligent. It's more of it's like closer to street smarts, where you know how to read people and learn from people, and you teach and learn at the same time.
I enjoy teaching. A lot of guys, they don't like helping others. I actually do. I love teaching. I mean, I wish I would have gone into coaching. There was not enough money in there, and I didn't like the hours. But maybe one day I'll end up, I'm sure, going to coach my kids. I know it. I'm going to be that guy that, you know, goes out there and gets stuck into coaching.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to help us out here? And I'm like, all right, let's do it.
You can't half-ass it either.
No. I've done it before, and they were like, oh my God, you're so intense. I'm like, yeah, this is serious, you know? And the parents enjoy it, you know? Like, you don't take it over the top, but like, you teach the kids the fundamentals of discipline. The rest they can learn on, you know, from other coaches, or you either got it or you don't.
Right.
But I want you to take something out of this, you know? Yeah, you got to have fun, but you need to learn something while you're here. So I love coaching.
Well, you're an inspiration, man. Thanks for doing this.
Appreciate that, Matt.
All
Thank
right.
you, brother. Good luck, man.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed hearing Zeus's story. I knew some of it, not all of it, but it made me feel good about this country again. With everything that's going on, it's easy to forget that we live in such a great place. I know Zeus is thankful for the opportunity he had to come here as well. So keep telling those stories. I know there's a lot of them out there. D. Trump, I hope you enjoyed it, bro. And I hope everybody else did too. Thanks for listening, and continue sharing on Facebook and Instagram and whatever you can do to get it out there so we get some more ears on this. And keep telling these stories, immigrant stories that need to be told, because stories like these are the reason America's great. One last thing before I go, I put out something on Facebook about who I should have on as a guest, and I put up a multiple choice. I appreciate everybody's feedback. Got over 100 comments. I'm gonna have to put more out there to get more ideas and get more people involved. So thank you for that. See you next time on Keepin It A Hundo.